Hi guys, my main goal in this video is to help solve the blade not cutting all the way through at the top end of the cutter. When the top end of the blade is not entirely cutting through your book, it's usually because its metal plate has shifted. To readjust this metal plate, you must use some leverage near the pivot point where the handle meets the blade. However, when adjusting the metal plate, there is a certain height that the vertical bolt needs to be in relation to the top of the fence. You will need to thread the nut lower down that bolt so that the head of the bolt is closer to the top end of the metal fence. A little reverse is required to readjust the blade's bottom end. In this video, I will explain how to work with the vertical bolt and nut as best as possible. This will be important for any realigning. We will also adjust the metal plate and realign the bottom end, allowing a 1 to 2 millimeter gap and some other minor little tips that I've picked up thus far. I will leave timestamps so you can jump around to where it applies to you. Alright guys, so it seems that the issue with the blade not cutting at this end of the cutter has to do with a combination of this metal plate shifting and also this vertical nut and bolt not being high enough towards the roof of this fence. Alright, so I took my machine, out of alignment, and I think I have recreated the issue where the knife is actually cutting into the cutting stick more at the bottom end of the machine and a little less at the top. If you can see, there's like a little bleed through of light. I have a light behind there at the top end, but at the bottom there is no bleed through of light. And that I was able to achieve by not just by loosening this bolt, which causes this metal plate to shift, but also I had to take this vertical bolt and send it lower down into this metal plate. So now I'll just try to explain as best as I can the different directions that you have to turn this nut and bolt to be able to thread this nut down the bolt, which is going to allow for more of the bolts to be, up towards the top of the machine. And well, of course, if you wanted for some reason to do it in reverse, then, you'll be able to do that as well. So in my last realignment video, I shared all the tools that you would need when working with this machine. But for these nuts and bolts here, for the two on top, you would use the size 14 socket and ratchet. And the one in the middle would be a size 18. Now you can also use the box wrenches here as well. All right. Now, fortunately, because I've been recording this machine for a little bit now, on video, I have, a visual as to how much of this vertical bolt needs to be exposed so that, or the threading, I should say, needs to be exposed so that my machine is aligned. So I am going to just basically try to recreate that. Now, I actually did take it out of alignment and recreated the issue and then realign it, and now I'm doing the whole process over on camera just to be transparent. So to work with this section here, you need two 8mm box wrenches, and you do need your knife to be up. If it is you have it down, it will not you will not be able to accurately determine if this vertical bolt, if it's threaded in such a way where it's almost touching the top of this fence. Okay, so turning the nut in that direction, lefty loosey, loosens it, right? When you first start turning the nut, only the nut turns. As soon as it becomes loosened, then both the nut and the bolt are going to start to turn in that same leftward direction. Sometimes it gets loose enough where it's actually easier to use your hands. All right, so both the nut and the bolt are going to be turning in that leftward direction up until the bolt hits the top of the fence. Because it has nowhere else to go, that would then allow you to continue to thread the nut up the bolt. All right, if you wanted to do the reverse is true. When you start turning the both of them towards the right, once it's loose, both the nut and the bolt turn in the right direction, but then eventually only the nut is going to tighten. So if it is you want to have most of your bolt up towards the fence, you would have to work with that, and at certain times you would have to take your second 8mm box wrench, hold the bolt in place, and thread that nut down down the bolt, and then tighten it. And if it's not high enough, repeat the process, because even though at first the nut is going to thread up the bolt, it's going to eventually get loose. They're both going to loosen and go upwards. You're going to hold that bolt again and then continue to thread that nut until this nut is tightened and this bolt is almost touching the roof of your fence. So now I'm going to do it. All right, so everything loosened here makes it where this plate has some movement, and that is what we need, together with some leverage, to be able to get this plate situated in the right position. To achieve that, we have our knife up, but not at a 90-degree angle. At a 90-degree angle, the plate is not going to move, and that is, if you tighten it there and you engage the knife, I actually did it a couple times, you will still have the issue where it is not cutting at the top. So what you need is, you need to be able to have that little bit of movement. So let's say that that's probably at an 85-degree angle. I'm just estimating there, but just enough where you can get a little bit of movement there. Then you're going to take something that is sturdy enough to give you some leverage, and there is a little space between the fence and this bolt by this little pivot point here. You are going to want to push this fence up, but at the pivot point. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Once you get it all the way up and it cannot go up any further, then you are going to hold it firmly like that and tighten your bolts. It's important to hold it up with leverage. Otherwise, if you don't and you try to cut, you will still have the issue of it not cutting at the top. I can't tell you how many times I've done this video. Okay, I'm using the wrong size. Okay. So now I'm just going to tighten this middle one first. Not too tight. And once that's tightened, I can go ahead and tighten the others. So I just need the leverage for this middle bolt, because if it is when you take a look at it, you will realize that this middle bolt, it's what's connecting the knife, the pivot point of this knife and this handle towards this fence. All right, so once that's tightened, you retighten these other bolts, not too tight, because most likely we will still need to work with them to be able to adjust the bottom end of our blade. But we're doing that so that we can see what our angle looks like right now. So now I'm going to engage the blade and take my first cut. I'm not going to worry too much about this angle, or let me move my hands. I'm not going to worry too much about this end of the blade. Adjusting that end is going to be achieved by working with the vertical nut and bolt. We just want to make sure that the knife is cutting towards the top end of the machine. I guess I should put my fence down. Oh, I want to mention that I did rotate my stick earlier on, because I have been cutting into the stick quite a bit. to be able to make these videos. My stick was pretty worn out, and that's just to say that, you know, that's something to keep in mind as well. If your stick is worn out, you do want to rotate it, because that can also affect your cut. Right, so this is the true test. Oh, that's perfect. All the way through. Guess I should wind my fence up. I'm so excited. That is as clean as you can get. Perfect. So now I am going to engage my knife to check to see what the space at the bottom of my knife looks like. And as you can see, this piece of paper can easily pass through there. So now I'm going to work with the vertical bolt and screw to be able to start closing in this space. So when we are working with adjusting the knife, we want to make sure that we re-loosen these two bolts here. All right, and we also want our knife to be up or disengaged. All right. Now, I don't know if you remember that when we were fixing this fence, we wanted most of our vertical bolt, the threading, to be exposed, and we wanted that bolt, this vertical bolt, to be almost touching the top of this fence. So to achieve that, what we did was threaded our nut as far down, you know, as we can, and then tighten it so that we had more of that bolt up. Okay, well now we want to do a little bit of the opposite, where first we are going to loosen it, all right, and then we are actually going to thread this this nut up about 2 or 3 turns, so that it's going to send more of that threading into this metal plate. All right, but just probably about 2 or 3 turns, and then we are going to check to see what that did. So I'm actually going to check it now, because I do like, oops, sorry, I do like to check it quite often. All right. Okay. So now that it's touching on top there, so I turned it once, turned it twice. So since I know that I threaded it 2 turns up, I'm going to start tightening it. And if that doesn't work, in other words, if it doesn't start closing in that space, I'm going to loosen it up and then thread the nut up about a turn or 2 again. Again, hopefully that makes sense. It's not tightened as yet. I'm just checking it just in case. Oh. All right, it's just a little bit too like too straight, so I'm going to loosen it a bit, because it will have this. I also discovered today that even if it doesn't have that spacing at the end, it actually will work. However, you know, it's just that you will, you know, go through your cutting stick much faster, because of course you're cutting. That means you'll be cutting much deeper into this end, and you'll be cutting into the end of your stick as well, so your stick is just going to wear out faster. But it actually will cut without the spacing. So I threaded it upwards. So I am going to send that screw all the way back up. And then I am going to thread the nut down the bolt like one turn. So it really does take a little bit of patience. I think that's one turn. All right, so now I'm going to tighten it again. Oops. Okay, now my space is right back to where it was. So again, I'm sending that that bolt all the way up, and then I am going to thread that nut about a turn, just one turn up, so that I can now have more of that bolt going into the machine, into that metal plate, sorry. Okay, that might be it. Let me go on the other side. Sorry. I mean, as I said, this will work. I'm just trying to not have to buy a new stick too soon. Alright, that might be it. Okay, so now I'm going to thread it back down. See what it does. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Because I want that I have that spacing there when I put pressure. Okay, I think that's going to be it for me. So I'm going to leave that engaged and tighten up all of my my nuts and bolts on this side. Alright, so I just got the machine realigned, and there's just some key points that I just wanted to point out because I've shared this, I've spoken about this section already. One, when you are adjusting your nut and bolt, you want to make sure your knife is up, and for every turn that you take, every couple turns, sorry, of your nut and bolt that you take to adjust the knife, you want to, you know, check periodically to see what that did to the angle of your blade. All right, so that's one. Two, you want to make sure that your knife is not too tight when you are trying to align the blade, but at the same time not too loose so that you hurt yourself. And it just takes a little bit of patience. That's about it. The one thing I would say that I've noticed is that when you are trying to realign the blade, it seems as if some of that threading on that vertical screw that you tried to regain or gain when you were trying to align this metal plate by sending that screw or that nut, oh boy, by sending that screw or that bolt further up towards the top of the machine. Well, when you're actually trying to align the blade, you want to send that vertical bolt just a little bit deeper into this metal plate, but just 1 or 2 turns at a time. So once you understand how it is you work with this nut and this bolt, that is what's going to allow you to align the blade. But once you understand how to work with this and a little bit of patience, aligning that end of the blade is not that difficult. But this part was a little bit tricky, but once you figure out the using of leverage right here, basically at the middle part of this bolt, and you know, you retighten that, it sounds, I'm making it sound easy, but once you do it 1 or 2 times, it would not be that difficult, let me say that. But anyway, I really hope that helped. So now I'll just quickly go through just some random little tips that I think might be helpful as well. When you rotate your cutting stick, try to leave that extra space towards the end of the machine. That's going to prevent smaller stacks of paper from sinking into that small hole. A straighter aligned blade without the recommended 1 to 2 millimeter spacing at the end, it seems to cut deeper into the stick. Once the metal plate is aligned though, it will cut this way, but it may wear faster on your cutting stick, and how often you need to resharpen your blade. I discovered this little section in the back here, and I was wondering why it's just a little pop out, and well, I discovered why it's like that. Just a piece of plastic, and it just pops right back in there. If your knife becomes this loose, all you need is an 18 millimeter box wrench and just a few turns, because it gets tight pretty quickly, and that's going to tighten that up. And of course, you tighten it to your likeness. If you have done all the alignment or realignment that you can do, and it is cutting from top to bottom, and it seems to only be missing the thicker piece of paper or cover at the back or at the end, then it may be time to consider sharpening your knife. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you are able to get your machine realigned. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. If this video helped you, consider giving it a like. That is really going to help get it out to other people that may have issues with their machine as well, and that would definitely help out my channel also. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Ask any questions if you have any, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.